Hey, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Lisanne Murphy. She's a creator of Midas Touch Social, a Facebook advertising agency and consultancy firm that specializes in what she calls dream traffic. Her clients learn and apply behavioral psychology principles and techniques to their messaging, offers, and campaigns to drive explosive business growth. Her techniques are what landed her podcast in the number 18 spot in business entrepreneurship within 24 hours of launch. Welcome to the show, Lisanne Murphy.
Thank you so much, Jim. It is seriously a pleasure to be with you and your listeners. I love your heart and I love your desire to serve those people in this community. And so, again, thank you so much for taking the time and inviting me on the show today.
I really appreciate you too. And when you first started your launch, I really love your technique, and hopefully we'll get into more of that tonight. But I love the fact that you just reached out to people, and it wasn't just like a salesy type thing. It was kind of like, hey, how you doing? And all this. I really enjoyed the conversation, you know. And then you asked, hey, can you do this for me? Well, of course, people are going to want to do stuff for you. You know, you're a nice person. You have a good heart. And so I backed your show, and you've been nice to my show. You know what I'm saying? So I believe totally 100% that in collaboration, not competition. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's all about synergy when you work with other people, and life's too short to try to do it on your own. And so it's a pleasure to talk to you in person, since we've been like digital friends for like the last few months.
Right. Digital friends. I want to ask you, the first thing I ask everybody pretty much is, what lit your fire to become an entrepreneur in the first place?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think like most entrepreneurs, they want this like grand story where it's just like this huge thing, but really like it's a series of small events, so the entrepreneurial bug has always been important to me. Like in high school, when Titanic was the big movie at the time, I was really into drawing. And so I would draw pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio and sell them to my friends in high school.
Wow.
And, they weren't, I was not a famous artist by any means, but like, I was like, if I have fun drawing and they're willing to pay for it, like, why not? Or I'd go buy cheap candy at the grocery store and then sell it like during lunchtime, and save people the trip to like having to go to the vending machines. And I taught private drum lessons. Like I never had like a conventional job. I always was trying to find ways where I could do something that I loved and make money from it. But then I got caught up in like the very, very traditional mindset. I went and I got my undergrad, and I thought for a while I wanted to be a chef and open up a restaurant. So I went and I was a chef at a resort for a while in preparations for culinary school. And I was like, that's not it. And then I went and I worked in corporate, and I worked in a training role, which I absolutely loved, but it was a short-term position. And so I knew it was ending. And while I was there, I had a friend who, her name is Catherine Jones. I don't know if you follow Catherine Jones. She's the creator of CF Design School. She's unbelievable. But at this time, she had discovered the internet and the power that the internet has to disseminate your product or service. And she introduced me and said, hey, we have to create something. And so we created this course to help college students find their meaning and purpose, to help them understand what their majors were. And there's a big problem with that. When you create a course, people need time to complete the course and money to buy the course. And what are the two things that college students don't have? Time and money. And so that course fell flat on its face. And it taught me that, and I learned this from Steve Larson, good products die in poor markets. And so it was a great product, but the market was poor. And so that didn't work. So I went back. Well, at this point I was working on my master's degree. After my master's degree, I went and worked at a corporate marketing firm. And well, even before that, I actually started another entrepreneurial business. I started a real estate investing company. I dumped every penny that I had from that training job that I had into this thing, and it tanked so hard. And the biggest reason was like, I wasn't truly passionate about it. So I was just going through the motions, but like my heart wasn't in it. And so it was just sucking me dry. And I realized that like any business, it's too hard to build for you to not be passionate about it. Like
Mhm.
businesses are just hard to build. Like there's no easy way to make money. And it wasn't successful because I really struggled to bring in leads. And so again, like with the first business, we didn't understand how to get leads and leads that would pay for our product. With the second business, I didn't know how to get leads and I wasn't passionate about it. So I was like, okay, well, obviously, like getting leads and bringing people to your business is important. So um, after I graduated with my master's degree and was working in corporate marketing, I had the opportunity to learn how to do Facebook ads, and I applied them at the job I was at and became really proficient at them, to the point where, and I like bought tons of courses and I saddled myself with some of the best marketers who are doing marketing for like Billie Jean is marketing and Joe Polish and like just some like really heavy hitters. And I was like learning at their feet and watching what they were doing with these entrepreneurs. And um, I had a couple friends who were in entrepreneurship and they said, hey, can you run my ads? And I was like, well, I'm just learning, but I'll give it a shot. So I start their ads and I didn't realize the skill I had developed, and their businesses just exploded. Like we're talking like going from like 4 figures a month to multiple 5 figures a month, and just multiple 6 figures like very, very quickly. And and they were like, and I was like, and I still didn't realize what I was sitting on. And they were like, you're brilliant. Like you have to do this. And I was like, but I have this corporate job and they like me and I like them. And at the time I was even thinking about doing a PhD program. And so I was networking with professors and I was planning to get a PhD in organizational behavior. And, I had networked myself to get a good position at a chance to get into Harvard and London School of Economics.
Wow.
But this entrepreneurial thing just like kept biting me and was like, I just couldn't leave it alone, Jim. Like I just could not leave it alone. And so I made the leap to start my own agency. And so I eventually left the corporate job, put the PhD applications on hold, and started running ads for entrepreneurs and teaching ads full time. And I've been doing that. It's now been a couple of years has gone by and I've done that, and it has completely transformed my life. And so, I mean, that's like, it's kind of a long story to that question, but like, how did I get my spark? Like it's always been a fire in there. It's just taken me, 30 years to like, not just have it be a little passion project, but like make it my thing, if that makes sense.
No, that's an awesome answer. I love that. I think that from the people I've talked to, it seems like that they've had the bug all their life. Doesn't some people, it seems it's out of necessity though. Also, there seems to be two things, but I don't know whether we're born with it or whether we develop it. Because I've always been that way too. It's always a little wrestling figure idea when I was 13 or something. It was just if I would have been able to get it to WWE or WWF or whatever it was at the time, it was a 13. Was it? No, it was a $6.5 million idea. So it's like, yeah, I always had all this stuff going on in my head, but I could never figure out how to get it out to anybody. So I think that was my major struggle at the time. But yeah, I love that answer because I think that I'm not sure. What do you think about that? What do you think? Is it born? Are you born with it, or is it something that you develop, or is it both?
Yeah, I love how you bring up like the part that necessity plays,
Yeah.
because I think as human beings, we naturally want to take the road of least resistance and be
Yes.
on the path that is comfortable. And entrepreneurship is never comfortable. And so we always just like gravitate towards security and comfortability. And I think that there are definitely certain personalities that are geared towards entrepreneurship. But regardless, if you are born with that tendency to be an entrepreneur, without putting your feet to the fire and having those moments of necessity, like when all your clients stop using you as an agency for a variety of reasons, or you lose your job, or the bills got to be paid, the kids need to be fed, like I don't have a family yet, but like I've watched a lot of friends go through that pressure. Like that pressure, it creates such a unique mindset and a unique, I have to do this, that creates it's like, like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. It just like creates this necessity to do something, and people figure it out. And so I think that, I think it's both. Because if even if you're born with that, it takes those uncomfortable things to really turn your business into something amazing. And if you're not born with that, when you're uncomfortable, then you'll find another job.
Definitely.
And that's perfectly acceptable as well. I've done that many times.
Yeah. Yep. And it happens. I mean, I think entrepreneurialism is the bug. I really do. I think it's something that I can't shake. I don't know if it's that way for everyone else, but it's just, for me, it's something that I've always wanted to do. It just seems like it's never, I've failed quite a bit. Like, you were mentioning this tank to that tank. Yeah, well, me too, So I think that's our journey, as entrepreneurs, is figure out the next step. Okay, that failed. Why did it fail? Okay, what can I do different this time? What is the thing that I learned from that? And we take all that experience and we just keep plugging along until something fits or something works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's my second question to you today is, what internally or externally has been a roadblock on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So, I think so I'll give you the short and the long answer for this. All right. So the short answer is, the biggest block is myself. I am my own limitation. And I firmly believe that, because we have the ability to learn skills to get us out of situations. We have the ability to work and figure something out and then outsource what we've figured out. Like, we have the ability to do those things. And for me, like in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, what was difficult for me was a mixture of uncertainty and doubt. Like, I had a lot of uncertainty that, like, could I take care of myself, pay for all the softwares and different programs that I needed to be successful, my own insurance, so, not just like be a W-2 employee. Like, could I do that? Like, there was a lot of uncertainty and doubt around that. And, but I knew that, like, I was tired of building someone else's dream in corporate. And so I was like, I have to give it a shot. And like, if worse comes to worse, I can go get another job. And that's not even the worst. I mean, if worse comes to worse, like, you're incapacitated and you can't use your brain, and like, and you die. I mean, like that, and even that, like, if you believe in a life after this life, like, even that isn't the worst. Like, I just think we often like blow things up in our mind. And so that was getting in my way. And then like 2019 for me was a huge year of transformation. Like, while my agency has existed for a few years, like, it wasn't until the beginning of 2019 that I made the final ties from all of my corporate engagements. And so I fully left the 9 to 5 in the corporate life. I also, like, my health had just gotten out of control, because in my job I was traveling a ton. And over the course of my master's program and my job, I'd gained 70 pounds and was incredibly unhealthy, and was just, my life was just out of control. And so 2019, I call it my restoration year, because I claimed back my time by leaving corporate, and I claimed back my body I just worked so hard and worked out and eating well. And I lost everything, and it lost all the weight, and it's just been so liberating. And it's not even about the weight. Like, I just feel like I made time for me again. And as I made time for myself, my confidence went up. And as my confidence went up, my agency grew as well. And so like, I always look at like the health of my business is a reflection of the health of me as an entrepreneur. So if my business isn't healthy, like it's a me problem, it's not a business problem. And so like, what do I need to fix the problems in my business? And so when I started to look at my business as a mirror of myself, like one, it kind of hurt, but two, like that's when I really started to like jump through the hoops of those pieces of resistance, really quickly. And then the block that's like in my mind right now is I'm building out my team in order to grow my business. And there's just so many questions around growing a team and who to hire and how to hire the best person and how to train them and how to create the best systems. And I did tons of hiring in my corporate jobs, but it was always for a defined job description using someone else's money. And when you hire as an entrepreneur, it is a completely different ballgame. And so that's my block now, is like how and when to hire people. And but again, I think so much of it is just in here about, like being scared to pay them, or like being doubtful that I'll know what systems to give them to do or whatever. So that's my long answer to the question.
The one thing that I heard in there was that you had job descriptions when you were at your company. That's probably a really good idea for hiring people too in your own business, is to make sure that you give everyone a specific job description so they know exactly what is expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're not just kind of throwing mud against the wall, you know what I mean? So that's something that I think is really key when hiring people, especially when they're in your business, to make sure that they know what the task is that is expected of them by you. And that way it's all written down. I mean, there's no gray area as to what they have to do.
Totally. Yeah. I think what's challenging though is like, as an entrepreneur, especially if you don't have a huge established business, is your business is evolving. And
yeah. You can change the description. That's no big deal, but and it will, as you grow, it will change. Absolutely.
Yeah. But that can be hard, right? Like, do you hire for now or hire for where you want to be in 4 months or in a year? I mean,
yes and yes.
So those are all the questions that I'm asking myself. So.
You want to find the people that are that you can see they're able to evolve with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a big question though. And I totally understand the fear and the trepidation in that, because, hey, it's your business. If this person doesn't work out, I mean, it's going to hurt your business, so managing people is difficult, but you really want to look at people's experience and what they can do rather than, and what they can evolve into. They can do what the task is now and what you project in 4 or 5 years, even though that may be a little bit, it might change a little bit, that you can see that person can evolve with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's powerful advice. I like it.
Thanks. But getting back to your business in particular, what exactly do you do for clients at this point? Is it the Facebook ads? What do you do? Yeah,
so I run a paid. Well, I call it a Facebook ads agency, but I help them with paid advertising. So if you've ever been scrolling on Facebook and a window pops up and someone's name's at the top and right under it in light gray it says sponsored, that's a paid ad. And so they're paying to put that in front of you. So I help businesses grow using that tool. So I will I have done for you services and I have done with you services. Whereas if entrepreneurs want to learn it for themselves so they can be dangerous in the platform, then they can learn it as well. So those are the two main pieces of my business at this point.
Okay. I like that. I like that. It's very clear what you do. It's sometimes people come out with stuff and it's not exactly clear what they do. You have a very defined niche there, I think,
Yeah.
and that's good. That's
Yeah,
really,
I
really,
take
really
one
good.
of the things that I think differentiates me, because there's lots of media buyers. Is kind of what they call
Yeah.
what I do. But one thing that differentiates is I focus heavily, heavily, heavily on the understanding the dream customer and crafting that into the message and the offer and the campaign that we're doing,
Hmm.
which you talked about in my intro. And because Facebook can do its job so much better if you're so much more specific with who you want to talk to. And so I often will talk to people about Facebook ads, and they think they're ready for Facebook ads, but they're not, because they don't have a clear understanding of the people they're serving and the problem they're solving. And
Mm.
so if you give Facebook generalities, it will gladly spend your money to find the people that you're looking for, but it's going to take more money. Whereas if you can just say, instead of taking this circuitous path to find this person, just go there, find them, then you end up spending a lot less to find the people that you're looking for in your business. And so instead of getting like, for every dollar you spend, like $1.50 or $2 in return, you're going to get, for every dollar you spend, you're going to get 5 or 6 or even $7 in return.
I like that.
And so yeah, who wouldn't, right? That's like creating your own ATM. It's pretty legit. So
I love that. I really do. I like that. I like the simplicity of what you said, but it isn't as simple, because I think that I read this in a book, and it was about finding your customer, basically, but they put it into a format of saying that, like, your child was missing, and you had to go to the police and you had to identify that child. You had to make sure that you described that child to a T, so that the people that were looking for that child could find them.
I like that. That's a really, really good analogy. I need to write that down. That's good.
And so it's basically filling out your missing persons report.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, then you can find where those people are and where they live,
Yeah, I
basically.
like that. That's good. That's really, really good.
Yeah, it was something in a book I read, and it floored me when they brought it out, the way they brought it out. It was
Yeah.
much more in depth than that, but that was kind of a synopsis of it, pretty
Yeah.
much.
I love it.
So you help companies identify their dream customer, their avatar, the person that their message is geared towards. Then you would write copy that person would resonate with, correct?
Hmm.
Okay. And so for the pain points, you have to find out what those people are going through and how that product solves that problem.
Hmm.
Okay. So if it's very important, I think, to get these people in almost like a focus group. If you can get information, as much information as you can gather about your target market, I think that's one of the best ways to go. Have you guys do that, or how do you get into the head of the people that you're trying to focus on? I guess would be
Yeah,
the best
that's a
way.
great question. It kind of depends on where the business is at. Like if the business is established and they have a customer base already that they have pulled in through organic traffic methods, from sales calls or networking, like whatever they've done, they already have a bank of people. But then we have to go and classify them, right? Because
Yes.
you can't just like, because there's different personas inside that group. So you really have to like pull out the different personas and identify those, because like oftentimes when people are writing ads, they'll say, hey, are you an entrepreneur who struggles with this or this or this or this? And anytime you bring up multiple issues, it dilutes the potency of the ad. Whereas if you're like, are you this person that struggles with this thing? When it hits that person, they're like, yes, that's me. Not like, well, that's me, but that's really not, and that's not, and that's not. So this must not apply. So really, really dialing in on those personas and creating different campaigns for each of those personas.
That is
Um,
really, really smart.
yeah.
Mm.
So if they're an established entrepreneur, then you draw from their current client base. That also gives the entrepreneur to say, there's these three personas. I actually prefer working with two, and this third one I don't really like to work with, but they will pay me money. And with ads, you can target the two that they want to work with, and
Mm.
exclude the ones that they don't.
That's really powerful too, because you get to choose who you work with. That's one of the joys of being an entrepreneur. But I can say that, but if you do your homework correctly, you can do that. But sometimes you never know. Sometimes there's people that just aren't good clients.
Yeah,
It
that's true.
happens. It happens. But I love your method. I really do. I think it's a
Yeah.
very valuable service. Does that tie into your podcast?
So my podcast is more general business marketing, but I always, with every guest, I always ask them. I always will ask them a question that has to do with dialing in your dream customer as it relates to their products. So I'm always talking about it, even if it's not like a solo episode.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense. It does tie right back in then. Oh, that's good. That's good.
yeah.
So I love having fellow podcasters on. I've had a few already, but what is I think an overview of the people that you've interviewed. Well, I was going to ask you what your favorite things that came out of those interviews.
Yeah. Yeah. So my favorite thing that came out of the entrepreneurs that I interviewed for my podcast.
Yeah.
So I honestly, the biggest thing is like the podcast has given me a platform to meet people that I would not have met otherwise. So like my podcast has been around for just under 2 months now. In a week, it'll be its 2-month birthday. And, I've done just over 30 interviews, I believe. And about a third of them are people that reached out to me asking to be on the podcast that I did not know. Like
Wow.
two of them were individuals that I interviewed today, and they were both incredible people. And at least one, if not two, are people that I would love to work with, whether it's I would employ their services in my agency, or vice versa, they would use me in their agency. So like I've set up follow-up calls with both of them to talk later about the potential of working together, whether that's paid or trade services. But I would have never met those people had I not created the Marketing Matrix podcast. And so it just created an incredible platform for me to talk to people. And then personally, it's been such a great experience for me to practice telling my story and getting out there and being an influencer, instead of just sitting at my desk as a small agency. So it's been amazing. I've loved it. It's just been great.
That's one of the aspects I've really loved about this as well, is I get to meet so many cool people. I'm not sure if this is number 60 or not. It's pretty close. And it's either 59 or 60. I've actually lost count, which is terrible for me, but hey, I'm getting old, so. But I get to meet such incredible people. I really do. I tell everybody this just about every week, that I'm so blessed to have people with good hearts that come on this show, and I get to have real relationships with real people that, like on Facebook, like you said, it's not real. It's kind of the digital thing. But when I'm on here, like I'm talking to you right now, it's totally different than it is on Messenger or something like that.
It's true. Yeah, no, it's super true.
So we've gotten some of that out as to what you do. Do you have any projects or anything you're working on that's coming out, or anything else that's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my most immediate project is, I'll be ramping up my coaching for 2020, because everyone's interested right now. Like it's in their minds that like they need Facebook ads with their business. So it's great timing to ramp that up. So like I kind of like at the beginning of each year, like I take on coaching clients, and then it kind of dies as the year goes on, and then it'll like come up. So I'm ramping up my coaching right now. In February, I'm going to Funnel Hacking Live next week, which I'm super excited about. And
Nice.
then after that, I'm going to be relaunching my Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group, but I need, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to really dial it in to make sure that the conversations that I want to facilitate on that platform are happening. And then in the second quarter, I'm going to be launching a content product all around this dream customer, this dream traffic is what I've called it, that I've been talking about, to help people really dial in their ideal customer so that they can rock Facebook ads, have a really clear content strategy, have a clear value ladder, know exactly who their Dream 100 is and how to talk with them. Like there's so many benefits to really nailing, again, the people that you're serving and the problem that you're solving. So, those are like my main projects that I have through the first half of 2020.
Well, you're not busy at all. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I'm looking for a project if you have any more ideas.
I might have a few.
I actually don't. I probably should sleep more than I do. So
yeah, well, is it overrated? I don't know. I've said that.
that's awesome.
you don't get a lot of sleep. People don't realize how much work goes into a podcast. I would, and you had said you had gotten a team now, and you had been able to farm some stuff out. Just can you tell people basically what you had to do and how much work it actually is to put this out with what we do?
Yeah. Oh man, podcasting. I mean, so here's the thing. Like you can throw up a podcast on like Anchor, which is a hosting platform, in 20 minutes and do a podcast, and it's not a big deal. But if you want to use podcasting as like a real lead generation strategy, it is a completely different ballgame. So like to give you a view, so all of November, I created my strategy for what the podcast was going to be about, who it was going to serve, what experience I wanted the listeners to have, what guests I wanted to have on there. And then the later part of November, I spent that time reaching out to people to get them on the show. So I was recording episodes, and I had to learn Audacity, which is an editing software. So I learned Audacity to edit my own episodes. And then at that same time, I was also promoting the podcast so that it would have a successful launch and get lots of ratings and reviews and downloads so that it could rank in the iTunes charts. So you were a victim of that. And so I'm
not a victim. No. I love to help.
All over the course of the last 2 weeks of November, I was doing posts on my profile and in Facebook groups that I was in, creating engagement to draw people to the fact that I was launching a podcast. And I gave away tons of freebies. I think I gave away 3 or 4 different assets that, I spent a lot of money to learn and create. And I just gave them away for free because I want people to give value. But like you say, like it creates the law of reciprocity in hopes that people would in turn review the podcast. And then during the launch, so over that course of that time, I reached out to 500 people to ask them for ratings and reviews. But launch day comes, and I had to follow up with those 500 people. So I was sending Messenger, I was sending texts, I was calling people, I was emailing people, reminding them about the launch and nicely asking, like, please rate and review and give this podcast some love so it can just explode. And people showed up and they were incredible. I could not have done it on my own. It was everyone's little piece of effort to, like that 5 minutes that it took you to go in and rate and review, and then maybe you took 20 minutes or whatever to listen to a few episodes. Like, even though it was like 25 to 20 minutes for you, like for me, it meant everything because I just poured so much time into it. So over the course of 3 days, we ended up with over 150 reviews, and the podcast landed in number 18 in business entrepreneurship. which was a huge deal.
That's big.
So
That's
we were
big.
right up there and hanging up there with some heavy hitter podcasts. And I even ranked, the first day I ranked higher than Russell Brunson's Marketing Secrets. And I was like,
Whoa,
I beat Russell
that's
Brunson.
great.
Even if it was just for a couple days, it was pretty exciting. So, yeah, it was so awesome, but it really was a community effort.
And it's a lot of work, and people don't realize how much it is, so it's like I like the fact that you told us how you did that. I love going back to your agency though, for a bit. So what's a typical package that you offer?
So, it depends on what the client needs in terms of what they're looking for. But like, okay, let's say if a client has like let's say they're a coach, and so they bring people into their system through like a webinar, and they draw them to a phone call, and then they get on the call and they close them. So with them, they could need anything from actually creating the ad creatives and the assets, which are like the headlines, copies, videos, and images. They are obviously going to need help loading all of that into Facebook and creating a strategy for testing, and then a strategy for scaling those ads or stabilizing the ads, and then a strategy for scaling the ads. But then for the ads to be really successful, you have to put remarketing on top of that to get multiple touches with people that come into the ecosystem. So I have another client who wants to do even more touches on the back end and is using me for help with email sequencing. And so it depends on the services, but the basic thing is running Facebook ads for people, using advanced strategies to find the right people, and using the right strategies to stabilize those ads after they're being tested so they can be scaled, and then having a killer remarketing campaign on top. So that's kind of like the basic stuff that people need, like if you're a coach.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There's stuff there. I know a lot about that. So, so it is a lot of work though, isn't it? Don't you think?
It
It's a
really is.
lot
It
of
really
work.
is. But it makes a huge difference in people's businesses.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that at all. I just meant that it's a lot of work on your end to perfect it and to get it right and to, get that message correct and test it
Yeah.
out, see how that's working, and then to get the actual copy that works, you know. So it's a process. Does that take a long time, or is that
To learn or to execute?
to execute?
It depends on how in depth the campaign is. Like I have a client where they're not just using one funnel. We're using lots of different assets because she's huge into like video and content creating. So we're incorporating a lot of those videos into her ad strategy. So when that happens, I mean, we have like this points to this, and then this one kicks back to this one sometimes, and then over to this one. And so it just becomes this like web. And so sometimes it can be more complicated than others. Facebook has done a really good job of increasing their ability to be successful. So you can, their goal is for you to just set it and forget it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Like you never want to set and forget an ad in Facebook, because Facebook will spend your money until you tell it to stop. Now it's in Facebook's best interest for you to be successful, because the more successful you are, the more money you spend. And so the more money you make, the more money Facebook makes. But
That makes sense.
But it's really important that like, you are the steward over your ads and over your product and your offer. And so you got to watch it carefully. And the most work is loading everything up. Once everything is loaded up, then it's just minor tweaks to get things going. But the real work is in making sure it's set up properly. And a lot of people make mistakes in that, and they don't realize what they're doing just because there's so many levers to pull. Facebook gives you options to customize your work. So you got to get it right.
So that's the benefit right there of hiring somebody hiring you, your agency, because you already know it. So you've already beaten the path down so people can walk through it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So come on down. The
And
water's
that can get pretty confusing. So it's like, okay, so I was going to ask you this, and I'm going to put it in the context of what you're doing with your agency. What if an entrepreneur is just starting out? They just have an offer, it's kind of the first thing they've ever done, stuff like that. What advice would you give them, going, to get that message out there to the right people?
yeah.
Kind of a broad question. I'm sorry, it's not as
No, that's
specific
great.
as I want.
That's great. Well, if you're just getting started, I think the best advice is to like, don't throw all the chips in on this thing. Like, start a side hustle. Like, I read this study one time that said that like your business is 80% more likely to fail if you just go cold turkey and all in than if you start it as a side hustle. Because the pressures, the pressures of entrepreneurship and the pressures of the financial burden of entrepreneurship, they quench creativity. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be creative. And so my biggest piece of advice is like, if you're just starting, like start a side hustle and make sure it works, because you quit everything and throw all your eggs in that basket and it doesn't work, you're going to be fine, but it's a terrible experience.
Yeah. No, not
And
much fun.
yeah. Yeah. So, that's honestly, my biggest piece of advice. But in terms of like finding who you're looking for to be successful, it's so important that you think not just about the basic demographics of your avatar, like the age, gender, their marital status, their family status, their political orientation, even like beyond like their interests, but like think about that. You have to get into their mind, because people purchase based on emotion.
Mhm.
So you have to get the right emotions going. And to get emotions, you have to create that in them. And you can only do that by understanding their fears, their pains, their motivations, their desires, what drives them, what scares them. Like those are the types of things. So you really have to get into the head of that, and make sure that you understand what pain you're solving. A lot of people lead with the product, right? They're like, I have this amazing thing, it's going to help you so much. And everyone's like, well, help me with what?
Mm-hmm.
And so
No,
you
I
have to
get that.
know what problem you're solving. So being clear on the person's mind, knowing what problem you're solving, and starting a side hustle. Those are my three biggest tips.
That's really good. I appreciate that. And I think the audience appreciates that too. It's been a really good conversation.
It sure has.
Is there anything else that you would like to leave the audience with? I like to give people an opportunity just to speak their mind.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you for providing this opportunity to speak. If anyone is interested in Facebook ads, I'm happy to answer any questions. As Jim knows, like I'm really responsive in Messenger, and I have tons of resources to get you started. But I love this idea of the podcast of like the entrepreneurial truth, like, and just be real, because I think there's a tendency in the entrepreneurial world to like put on a face and be this authoritative influencer and have this perfect life and they have this expensive car in the background and all this stuff. And the truth of it is that entrepreneurship is amazing and it's rewarding, but it is so hard and it's mentally taxing. And like my room is dark right now because the lights in my office like just went out today and I haven't had a chance to fix it yet. And like, that's just kind of a hard, weird thing. And so I only have like my ring light to light this interview, but it's okay. Like it's like, I'll fix the light tomorrow or the next day and it'll all work out just fine. But really I love that you've given an opportunity to be honest about their truth and what's going on for us in our heads. Cause that's a powerful opportunity.
Thank you. Where can they find you? Where are you? I know you have a podcast. I know all that, but where can they find you on Facebook and things like that?
Yeah. So if you want to follow the podcast, it's called The Marketing Matrix. I'm on iTunes and Stitcher and Google and Spotify. I think those are the ones that I'm on. And You can find me, of course. I mean, I'm a Facebook person, so you better be able to find me on Facebook. Luckily, my name is unique enough. I'm kind of hard to miss when you type in my name. So Lisanne Murphy, hit me up on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram at Lisanne Murphy HQ. And yeah, those are probably the best places to follow me and reach out and find more resources if you're interested.
And just a side note, she's really cool too. So, you can reach out and she'll answer questions and not make you feel weird and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put that out there too. I really appreciate you being on today, and I had a blast. I really did. I had a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And for those of you that are listening, thank you for taking the time out of your life to do this. Time is valuable, so it means a lot that you would listen in.
Appreciate it, everybody. If you could subscribe to the channel and click the little bell thingamajigger, that would be great. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you, and see you next time.